The film begins by showing Tyler, a food enthusiast, as he eagerly prepares for a trip to an exclusive restaurant on an island with his girlfriend Margaret. However, they quickly realize they will not be alone on the trip as they are joined by food critics, businessmen, and a movie actor on the boat ride to the island.
Oh my God. Who's Lillian Bush? Just...
As they make their way there, Tyler's excitement for the dishes to come is palpable, causing Margaret to feel a little overwhelmed by his enthusiasm. Upon arriving at the island, the guests are greeted by Elsa, the head waiter, who takes them on a tour of the island. They are impressed to learn that the restaurant produces many of its own raw ingredients, from vegetables and fruits to meats. This revelation, especially, impresses Tyler, who is so enthusiastic that he requests a tour of the main chef's house from Elsa.
High Emperor of Sustenance.
Yeah, all right.
However, Elsa forbids Tyler from entering the main chef's house. Despite this, guests are still allowed to observe closely how the chefs work in the kitchen. As all the guests are seated at their tables, the main chef and restaurant owner, Julian Slowik, immediately instructs the chefs to prepare the appetizers for the guests as efficiently and quickly as possible. He also tastes the food before it is served to the guests, ensuring that the taste is perfect. Witnessing Slowik's and the chef's methods, Tyler is highly impressed and can't help but praise them. After a while, the first course was ready to be served. Slowik revealed to the guests that the first course was inspired by the image of an island filled with beauty and advised them to not only eat the dishes but also to fully experience the various flavors. When Tyler sees the first course and tastes it, he is moved to tears by the incredible flavors in Slowik's food. However, Margaret and the other guests found the food to be quite ordinary, even unpleasant. They were disappointed that the food only had a beautiful appearance but lacked taste. The businessmen even felt their chefs at home could have made a better meal. Despite the negative feedback from the guests, Slowik paid no attention and introduced the second course, bread without bread, where the chefs would only serve guests a sauce to complement a loaf of bread. The critics were still unimpressed, deeming the sauces less fluid. Margaret felt confused by the second course, unsure if Slowik was joking or not. Tyler was the only guest who continued to praise Slowik, calling the sauces an extraordinary concept, carefully thought out by Slowik. Still, Slowik does not address the guests' comments and instead serves them another sauce of a larger size, causing the businessmen to become even more disappointed, to the point that they ask Elsa for real bread. The atmosphere in the restaurant has changed dramatically, with guests now reconsidering their initial thoughts of a delicious meal. Margaret didn't touch the second course at all, which prompts Slowik to approach her and ask why she seems uninterested in the sauce. She responds that the sauces are not the main meal and not worth eating. Hearing Margaret's comment, Slowik returns to the kitchen to prepare the next course, which he calls Memory. He then reveals to his guests that he got the concept of food from his gloomy childhood, where his father used to torture his mother, and the only way for the young Slowik to stop the torture was by stabbing his father's leg. After Slowik's revelation, the chef served tortillas to the guests, who were excited to try them. But to their surprise, the tortillas contained laser-printed images of each guest's dirty secrets and uncomfortable truths. For example, the actor's tortilla featured a picture from his worst film, while the businessmen's tortillas showed evidence of their embezzlement in their companies. All the guests were left wondering how Slowik could have obtained the pictures and their secrets.
I know, it's faked. It's some sort of...
It became clear that the chefs and employees at the restaurant had done their research on the guests and were privy to intimate details about their jobs and backgrounds. This revelation only served to further unnerve Margaret, who had already had enough of the strange and unsettling evening. Feeling frustrated and trapped, Margaret made a desperate attempt to leave the restaurant and the island altogether. But unfortunately, the employees were quick to intercept her, preventing her from making her escape. She was only allowed to go as far as the restroom and was not permitted to leave the premises. As Margaret retreated to the restroom to compose herself, Slowik sought her out to inquire about her lack of appetite. She was blunt in her response, telling him that she simply did not enjoy the food that had been served. After some time had passed, Slowik was ready to introduce the fourth course. To the surprise of the guests, he revealed his deputy chef, Jeremy, who would be serving a dish called the mess. Slowik praised Jeremy as a talented and creative chef but made it clear that no matter how hard he tried, he would never be able to replace Slowik. As Slowik finished speaking, there was a sudden and shocking turn of events. Jeremy pulled out a gun and shot himself in front of the gathered guests, causing panic and confusion among them. But Slowik, unfazed, tried to calm the guests, explaining that Jeremy's actions were all part of the concept behind the menu he had created. He called it the mess. Despite the unfortunate incident, Slowik pressed on with the fourth course, which was a delicious selection of premium meats. But Margaret, still in shock from Jeremy's death, found herself unable to eat, while Tyler, on the other hand, continued to devour his meal voraciously. Meanwhile, one of the guests, Richard, became increasingly agitated, expressing his dismay that his beloved restaurant had undergone such a drastic transformation. In a cruel and violent response, the staff cut off one of Richard's fingers. The guests were now in a state of panic, except for Tyler, who continued to eat his meal with relish. Slowik then called for Margaret to speak with him privately. He revealed to her that she had not been invited to the restaurant at all, but was actually Tyler's ex-girlfriend. He also let her know that at the end of the meal, all the guests and staff would be killed. As Margaret's presence had not been part of the original plan, Slowik gave her a choice, whether she wanted to die with the guests or the staff. She was given 15 minutes to consider her options and make a decision. As the guests struggled to understand why Slowik had orchestrated this twisted event, he finally stepped forward to explain his motivations to them. He revealed that each group of guests had been invited for different reasons. The food critics had been invited because they had bankrupted many restaurants with their harsh reviews. The wealthy businessmen had been invited because they never remembered the menus or dishes they had eaten at his restaurant, a sign to Slowik that they didn't even consider the art he had created to be important. And the actor had been invited because he had lost touch with his art and was more concerned with money than the craft itself. Slowik's motivations were not only based on personal grudges. He then introduced the guests to the angel investor of his restaurant. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Slowik had been forced to hand over ownership of the restaurant to an angel investor. However, the investor then had plans to replace Slowik as the main chef, citing that they did not share the same vision for the restaurant. Unable to accept this decision, Slowik had devised a twisted plan to present the guests with a macabre show, which he called The Fallen Angel, in which the angel investor would be drowned.
Time's up, Miss Mills.
As the allotted 15 minutes came to a close, Slowik called Margaret back to speak with him. It was then that he finally uncovered her true identity. Her real name was Erin, and she was not a food critic as she had claimed, but a sex worker. Slowik expressed sympathy for her, acknowledging that she should not have been in that place. Despite this revelation, Slowik invited the guests to follow him outside of the restaurant, as he had one final course to present to them. With the guests gathered, he called forward one of his female staff, Catherine, who then revealed that Slowik had sexually harassed her twice in the past. In a shocking turn of events, Catherine pulled out a knife and stabbed Slowik, seeking revenge for his actions. After removing the knife from Slowik's thigh, Catherine offered the male guests an opportunity to escape the island. They had to run as fast as possible, as the chefs would be chasing them 45 seconds after they began their escape. The male guests quickly took off, running for their lives, while Catherine led the female guests back into the restaurant. Desperate to find a way out, the women tried to persuade Catherine to help them escape the island. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain, as it became clear that Catherine had planned all along for everyone to die at the end of the dinner.
Fuck off! Get away from me!
A special bite for the last.
As the chef successfully recaptured all the male guests and brought them back to the restaurant, Slowik had one final revelation to share. He revealed that he and Tyler had known each other before this night and that Tyler had been a chef at the restaurant. This explained why Tyler had so vocally praised the courses throughout the night and ate them voraciously. Though Slowik was disappointed that Tyler had brought the wrong people, his ex-girlfriend Nita, who was also a food critic. Rather than punishing him for his mistake, Slowik decided to give Tyler one last chance to redeem himself by cooking for all of them. Unfortunately for Tyler, his nerves and depression got the better of him, causing him to cook poorly. His dishes were a mess and tasted terrible, which led to Slowik humiliating him and insulting his cooking skills. In a cruel move, Slowik whispered into Tyler's ear, ordering him to take his own life. Without hesitation, Tyler went to the back room and hanged himself. With Tyler out of the way, Slowik decided to appoint Erin as his staff and gave her the task of retrieving a barrel needed to prepare the dessert. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Erin used this task to sneak into Slowik's house, where she stumbled upon a jealous Elsa. Elsa was not happy that Slowik had appointed Erin as staff, as she feared that Erin would take her position. Erin's attempt to defend herself resulted in her having to kill Elsa by stabbing her in the neck. With Elsa dead, Aaron went into Slowik's room and discovered newspaper clippings criticizing him, as well as a photo of Slowik from his past as a burger chef in a fast food restaurant. As she was looking through the articles and photos, she stumbled upon a communication radio, which she quickly used to call for help. With her task completed and help on the way, Aaron quickly returned to the restaurant with the barrel. As the guests heard the sound of the Coast Guard approaching the restaurant, Slowik and the chefs quickly scrambled to cover up their crimes.
What? What are you doing? Tight.
But it turned out that the Coast Guard was actually one of Slowik's men in disguise, leaving the guests who had thought they had been saved, now to their fate. Everyone except Aaron. As she prepared the dessert, Aaron deliberately insulted Slowik's dishes, referring to them as tasteless and lacking in emotion.
I don't like your food.
I'm still fucking hungry.
From the moment she tried them, she had found them bland and unfulfilling. She was still hungry. In light of her complaints, Slowik took the decision to revoke Aaron's staff position and restore her as a customer. He then inquired about her food preference and assured her that he would cook and serve whatever she desired until her satisfaction was met. Aaron requested for a cheeseburger and fries that cost $10, to which Slowik promptly complied. As he prepared the meal, Slowik rediscovered the joy of cooking that had eluded him for a while. His happiness was further amplified when Aaron ate the burger and expressed her satisfaction. Aaron, being fully satiated, requested for her leftovers to be wrapped for her to take home. Eventually, Slowik allowed Aaron to leave, and as a token of appreciation for her visit, after Aaron's departure, Slowik and his chefs quickly set about preparing a special dessert, a unique take on the classic s'mores dish. The chefs spread crushed crackers on the floor and then created marshmallow shawls and brown hats for the guests to wear. Slowik gave the dessert its final touch by setting fire to the restaurant, killing the staff and guests, as well as himself.
I love you all. We love you, Chef!
Meanwhile, Aaron watches the restaurant burn while sitting on the boat and eating the cheeseburger. And with this, the movie comes to an end. The moral of this movie is that you should be careful if you eat at an exclusive restaurant located on a small island. Instead of eating well, the chefs would make you their desserts.